to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today's guest is Dr. Jay, speaking on how to assemble your birth team. Dr. Jay Warren has dedicated his career to helping people live happy and healthy lives. Born and raised in Southern California, he got his undergraduate degree in biology from UC San Diego before attending Life Chiropractic College West and graduating Summa Cum Laude in March of 2000. In his first year as a chiropractor, Dr. J helped run a busy bilingual clinic in Costa Rica, which grounded him in his family wellness-oriented style of practice. He then returned to San Diego in 2001, where he opened the Warren Family Wellness Center, and is happy to be celebrating his 15th year of practice. Dr. J has served as a health and wellness advisor and writer for numerous health-oriented websites. He has written and produced his own series of self-guided visualizations called Healing from Within, and has also authored the Being Well Lifestyle Program, which is a comprehensive, self-guided, healthy lifestyle makeover program. Dr. J is currently working on a new online course for pregnant women called Connecting with Baby in Pregnancy that will be released soon. Dr. J continues to work with pregnant women, infants, children, and parents on a daily basis. He is a member of the ICPA and is certified in the Webster technique. He is a family wellness chiropractor and wellness care coordinator at the CAP Wellness Center in San Diego. He is the host of the weekly podcast, Healthy Births, Happy Babies, where he talks to experts in the natural birth and holistic parenting field. He also likes to enjoy an active lifestyle as a surfer, yogi, and volleyball player, although he's becoming more of a runner now that his son Nico is 2.5 years old. For more information, please visit his websites at drjwarren.com and capwellnesscenter.com. Welcome, Dr. J, to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So today's topic we're going to focus on is how to assemble your birth team. And Dr. J Warren works in a facility out in California that specializes in the integrative care model for pregnancy and birth. So I'm really excited for him to share his wisdom and knowledge regarding how to create a birth team for yourself and why that's important. So let's start off with talking about a little bit why you chose to become a chiropractor who specializes in maternity and pediatrics.
Sure. Well, I mean, really the reason why I got into this is because I, as a kid, grew up with my mom working in she was a nurse working in a regular GP's office. And so back then, kind of, you just had a doctor. It wasn't really necessarily a pediatrician. It was a regular doctor. And I loved being there. You know, I loved the way that I felt when I was there and being taken care of. I loved the way the doctors worked with other patients that were there. And it was just an environment I love and I always wanted to help people and help people in a healthcare setting. And so that's what I wanted to do. I actually set out to become a medical doctor and probably a GP. So I went to UC San Diego. I was a bio major and doing the pre-med program there. And in undergrad, I really realized that medicine was not the path for me. It wasn't the philosophy or the type of to do in a healthcare setting. And I found chiropractic. You know, I'd been a patient as a chiropractor or as a kid for some volleyball injuries and things like that. And it was always on my radar to look into. And once I started chiropractic school, I found the philosophy that I was really looking for. The whole philosophy of your nervous system controls every function of your body, and you just get the interference out of the way, and the body can heal itself. And that's what I wanted to do with the chiropractic adjustment. And so as I started working predominantly at first with adults, I realized that a lot of the health problems that they were having now started with stress patterns and health challenges that they started having as a kid. And so I really wanted to start working with kids to get at the real root cause of things. I mean, chiropractic, we're always working with the root cause of getting the blockages out of the way so the body can heal itself. But then also the subluxation patterns start as kids. And so I started educating parents more and more about, the problems you're having now might be patterns that are starting in your kids right now. Let's get them checked, get them clear so they can grow healthy and naturally as they're designed to. And the more and more I was working with the little kiddos, I realized a lot of the problems they were having was coming from birth trauma. And so I really wanted to work with a kid and, get them cleared out as quickly as possible after birth so that any birth trauma can be cleared out. And I realized, the best way to minimize the birth trauma is to have mom be taken really well care of during the pregnancy so that the birth goes really, really well. And so that's how I gravitated, kind of going backwards, if you will, to be able to start right from the get-go of having mama be pregnant, or pregnant mamas to be really healthy, and then the babies to come out healthy as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. I love that. I mean, that's the original root cause. And, as chiropractors, we're really passionate about identifying and correcting root cause of, interference in the nervous system, which we find, creates a lot of symptoms and a lot of healthcare issues for children and adults. So it's true. It's like the sooner the better. I mean, I was at a conference this past weekend that was talking about pediatric chiropractic research, and even before birth, because you had mentioned birth trauma or just strain during the birth process, how that can create stress on the baby's alignment and how that can create issues. But even intrauterine constraint is showing now that will not only type of birth that can happen, but it can actually impact the development of the fetus's alignment and spine those last couple months of pregnancy. So once again, getting a woman checked and adjusted throughout her pregnancy will be beneficial in so many ways.
Right. And, even right from conception on, it's such an important, impactful time we're learning, especially with chiropractic decreasing stress in the entire nervous system. Stress throughout the pregnancy changes the hormonal cascade that goes on through pregnancy. It changes the biochemistry that the baby's marinating in. And we're seeing now that in the world of epigenetics, that environment really turns on and turns off genes that will make the health profile of the kiddo coming out much different. If a woman has a really relaxed, healthy pregnancy, those babies that are coming into the world are going to be that much healthier. So it really is important throughout the entire pregnancy for, stress in all ways, physical, chemical, and emotional, to be minimized and worked with as quickly as possible. So not just for mom to be healthy and comfortable. I want that for the woman during the pregnancy. I always kind of joke with them when I'm working in pregnancy and say, like, I'm not really doing this for you. I'm doing this for the baby. And it really makes a huge impact for a child to come into the world safely, gently, and just ready to start off life clear and healthy.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm so glad you mentioned that. And that's why, a lot of chiropractors like yourself and I that specialize in this area even do preconception work, because we know that working with a woman's nervous system and helping to support her health and, her nutrition, detox, things like that prior to conception will, even create a better, healthier pregnancy. So, these things are really important for women to know about, that these options are out there, and, it's really valuable. I think a lot of people might think, like, why would I see a chiropractor during my pregnancy if I'm not having any pain? Which a lot of pregnant women do have pain, but let's say it's not a pain issue. There is that biochemical component that you mentioned. It's regarding like the stress level in the nervous system that will convert to cortisol levels and other biochemical issues, hormones that are going to impact. They pass through the placenta, and this will impact how the baby feels and is functioning, developing in utero. Like, this is impacting their health as they're developing. So just like a pregnant woman is avoiding drinking alcohol, for example, during her pregnancy, we also know that ideally, she's not under large amounts of stress. Her adrenals aren't going to be, being worked on and fatigued, because that's going to impact the baby. And they've even shown research that these babies that are growing and developing in a mother who's under a high stress environment, they are born with enlarged adrenal glands, because their adrenals are actually having to help compensate their mother's burnt out adrenals and making hormones. And so this is something that is ideal to avoid.
Yeah, and it's something I think a lot of women They need to hear exactly what you just said, because a lot of women, when they're first going through their pregnancy, they think, okay, well, I need to get everything done I can in these next 9 months because life is definitely going to change as a parent. And the thought is, once the baby comes, then I'll downgrade, then I'll slow down and have time to be on maternity leave and the like. But understanding that stressful environment of making sure projects are done before baby comes, you wrap up work, all those kind of things, like that stress is really preparing the baby for a stressful environment on the other end, biochemically as well as genetically. And so that's why we want to make sure that the whole pregnancy is as calm and relaxing as possible. I mean, there's a lot of stress that comes along with pregnancy, of course, but we want to make sure it's being handled and peeled away before it impacts the baby too much.
That's right. And just making lifestyle choices that are going to help, minimize that stress level as much as possible. So it does typically mean cutting back on work hours and the workload and other social engagements, like just not being overscheduled, having time to go for walks, be in nature, and, time to bond with your partner, things like that are really important for the health of the pregnancy. So I know we could go on and on about that, but let's switch gears and talk about kind of what you've been involved with out in California at the CAP Wellness Center, working in an integrative care model that's specific for helping to support women in a healthy pregnancy.
Yeah, and the CAP Wellness Center here, we're in San Diego and Encinitas. It's not 100%, but 90% of what we do is prenatal care. I'm one of the only people within CAP Wellness that does pediatric care, but the majority of what we're doing here is to support women throughout their pregnancies so they can have a really powerful birth. And the CAP Wellness Center is called CAP Wellness because Dr. Kapitanakis is the kind of visionary of it. He's an obstetrician. He's very well known in the San Diego community as a very naturally oriented OB. And so a lot of women have been coming to him for years that aren't necessarily wanting to have a hospital or a home birth or a birth center birth. They're wanting to do things in the hospital, but they want to do things as naturally as possible. And so Dr. Cap was noticing over the years that the women that were doing birth education classes, they were getting adjusted, they were doing acupuncture, they were taking yoga, they were learning self-relaxation techniques to use during labor. They were having much better births. They were having much less interventions. The babies coming through on the other side were having better APGAR scores. Their postpartum period was that much more easy and enjoyable because they could just get to parenting rather than being so depleted. And so he created the CAP Wellness Center where we have chiropractic, we have acupuncture, massage. We have one of the only prenatal yoga studios here in North County, San Diego. We have a lot of birth education classes. We teach newborn care class and breastfeeding class. We teach hypnobirthing, infant CPR. And we also have a team of lactation consultants and a really strong team of doulas. And all of that is offered as services that a woman can use throughout her pregnancy. And of course, we recommend using all of them because we all work differently with the same message, with the same intent. We all work differently. We don't overlap in the type of care that we offer. But at the same time, not all women are going to be able to use every single thing, but we have a variety for them and to be able to guide them because a lot of times women will come to Dr. Cap and think, okay, I chose my prenatal provider and I know who's going to be at the delivery, so I'm good. I just show up at my prenatal appointments throughout. Hopefully everything goes okay and hopefully everything goes okay with the birth. And really our education process is that you're choosing a birth care provider that is congruent with how you want to have your pregnancy and birth go is absolutely important to one of the most fundamental things for the birth to go the way that you want it. But you also have to have a team around you to support the birth care provider as well as, most importantly, you as the pregnant woman. And that's what we're seeking to do here. The integrated care model that we've created here really means that when a woman comes in for any service, whether it's just taking yoga classes, just doing acupuncture, massage yoga, all of the practitioners are able to look at the information that practitioner has gathered on the person and give their feedback on it. So when a woman comes in, that's an integrated care agreement they sign and agree to, that they can have other people in a HIPAA compliant sense, have other practitioners look at the private health information. But that means that, say, if I'm working with a woman chiropractically throughout the pregnancy, I can ask the acupuncturist here, I've been working on this and this isn't really clearing, like, how can that help? And then they can put their 2 cents in on how to help shift that. So they might not necessarily receive acupuncture for that, but they have an acupuncturist who looks at the body and looks at the constellation of things in a slightly different way and be able to help me deliver better care. Obviously, I can't reproduce what an acupuncturist does. I mean, acupuncturists can't reproduce the chiropractic adjustment, but we have a team of people that are here to serve and to really support them in the ways that they need to be supported, and that's individual for everyone. So it's something that before in my career, when I first started out for the first 15 years of my practice, I was trying to do that around in the birth community in San Diego, reaching out to other practitioners and trying to collaborate. And, over the years, I found a pocket of practitioners that were really on board with that. Surprisingly, sometimes practitioners it's not that they don't want to collaborate with other ones, it's just not really on their radar. And so I kind of gravitated towards finding OBs and doulas that were open to talking back and forth, of course, with the patient's permission. And then when the CAP Wellness Center came about and they brought me on board as the chiropractor and the wellness care coordinator, we have all these phenomenal practitioners under one roof that a woman can use, but at the same time, we really try and educate a woman that it's really important for them to assemble their own team. We have a great team here available and a lot of different people that can serve on their team, but we really don't want it to be, this is our team, do you want to choose us or somebody else? It's more of, who do you want to be part of things? And that takes a process.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important. So, that's a really good point. Like you have, in my office as well, we have a lot of different types of practitioners here that are holistic, maternity oriented. But to your point, sometimes a woman is not going to want to just, doesn't resonate with every single type of practitioner. So what would you recommend to a woman who sees the value in having different practitioners supporting her throughout the pregnancy in addition to a birth provider? And how does she find the providers that are best for her? Yeah,
well, I've found the best way of doing that is for that woman working with a practitioner that they do like. Say that, they found you and they love you as their chiropractor, to ask that provider of other people that they might work with. I know that over the years, say with acupuncturists, I've had like 3 or 4 that I've worked really well with, and they're all very different. They have different styles of practice, they're different personalities, male, female, old, young. Like I had like 3 or 4 that kind of covered all of those bases, and in a kind of matching sense, I would be able to send that patient to an acupuncturist that I think, having known them and known their personality and what they want, to one of those acupuncturists that would most likely be the best fit for them. I wasn't always right. Sometimes I give them a couple of different ones and they would find their own. But if a team that, like in your center, that has a lot of different practitioners, but also I'm assuming are fairly congruent in messaging, if that isn't available to a woman, then I would really have the woman ask the practitioner that they really like, of like, who else do you work with that does acupuncture? Who else do you work with that does really good prenatal massage, that is a good doula, those kind of things? Because that's how my practice has always been built. It's all on referrals and word of mouth, and that can work with practitioners as well. There's times where women are coming in to see me for chiropractic care, and they're coming from a certain acupuncturist, and I want to reach out to that acupuncturist and know the great work that they're doing and collaborate with them. So if they've tried a different practitioner, say a chiropractor that they didn't care for, either the type of adjustment or the office, or didn't work for them, having asking, say, their acupuncture, like, well, who else could I use, is the best way of doing that. Hopefully the person they're asking is their OB, right? Hopefully the OB that they're working with prenatally is understanding that the total care of the mom throughout their pregnancy in a chiropractic way, in an acupuncture way, in a yoga way, in an emotional balancing way is going to help the mom have a better pregnancy, a better birth, the baby's going to be healthier. And if not, then it's kind of on the onus of the mom to really go around and find those people. And I found that the practitioner that they're working well with already is the best source.
Yeah, that's so true. And typically that practitioner will have a list of referrals to different types of local, practitioners of those other modalities. And I think, you didn't mention midwives, but, midwives can also be a great resource if you choose a midwife as your birth provider. They typically are very connected with these types of practitioners. And I know they really see the value of chiropractic during pregnancy because they can see how that pelvic alignment, will directly impact the type of birth that a woman has.
Yes, and the reason why I'm here at the CAP Wellness Center is because of my midwife. My son, he was born 2.5 years ago. He was born at home. Fabulous midwife. And when we were kind of doing our own due diligence, in the case if we needed to do a hospital transfer, we interviewed, if you will, Dr. Cap, because I knew him professionally and having collaborated with some other patients over the years, that we wanted him to be the guy that we went to if we were going to do a hospital birth. We didn't need to do that. We had a fantastic home birth, but it was our midwife that really encouraged us to reach out to different places. And Karen Messer, who is our center director, she was our hypnobirthing instructor and our doula. And so it was really with Dr. Cap and Care that kind of led us through the birth of my own son. It's very different being a prenatal chiropractor and a pediatric chiropractor and then being in the trenches yourself, being on the other side of it. It was a fantastic experience, but I learned so much more and allows me to, bring so much more to the table with the people I work with now. But it was really that experience that when the CAP Wellness Center here was concepted, that Dr. Cap and Care reached out to me to bring me on board. So I'm so thankful every single day for my son, Nico, but another reason why I'm thankful for him is because I get to be here at the CAP Wellness Center now.
That is such a cool connection. I love that.
Yeah.
It's really, and that is such a good point too. Home births are on the rise in the United States. I attended my sister's home birth 4 years ago, and she's going to give birth any day now to her second baby at home.
All right.
And,
congratulations.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And, she says she went, she's in Connecticut, when she went to apply for, there's some sort of application you fill out for a home birth. The person's like, I guess it's becoming trendy because we're getting more and more applications. We've now gone from under 1% of births in the United States to like 1.5%. Great. I'm happy to see that it's a growing trend. I hope it continues.
Yeah, and I hope it goes up more and more. The home birth, that's a whole other conversation. But really, and it was one of the things that I wanted my kids when they were born. This is, years and years ago, that I would love to do a home birth. That's always what I wanted. But I also understood that it was really up to mama,
Right.
Like I always say to the women that I work with prenatally is the best place for you to have a birth is where you feel most comfortable.
That's
and
right.
If that means that you feel most comfortable at home, and Effie definitely felt that way. She did not like doctors, didn't like drugs, didn't like hospitals. So she would have been freaked out in a hospital having a birth. And understandably, that birth probably would not have gone very well. But she was very comfortable at home, had been to home births before, and she knew that world. Versus other women might be completely freaked out being at home, being like, well, what if? And that stress in the body would prevent that birth from going powerfully. So it's important for them to be in an environment that they're comfortable with. And if that's the hospital, we want to make sure that it's the most naturally conducive environment for the birth to go as it's naturally planned, rather than it being kind of a medical emergency that a doctor needs to save a woman from, which is unfortunately what the kind of Western model of birth is right now. But we're changing that. And that's a lot of the work we're doing here is trying to help that paradigm change.
That's right. Yeah, that's so important. It does boil down to what's in the woman's best interest and where does she feel comfortable. And, every woman's different. And so every birth, can look different. But helping support a woman and following that intuitive guide of what feels and resonates best for her to allow her body to do what it already knows how to do and have that powerful birth, as you called it, which is really a birth that is, allowing her body to birth without intervention and without, trauma.
Right. And as chiropractors, we know that, right? I mean, we know that the body's naturally designed to be healthy and the body's naturally designed to heal, but also a woman's body is naturally designed to give birth. I mean, it's just, the uterus is in the body solely to make babies and to birth babies, right? And so the more we can inspire and educate women to understand that this is the most natural thing in the world. There's things that you need to do to prepare yourself for it. But the reason why it's somewhat of an effort in prenatal care to do things nowadays is because we've gotten away from that natural way of birthing. Our culture's fast, the society's fast, and especially women that are working a ton and getting ready to transfer out of things, it's just a different time, and that's not necessarily bad. It just is getting in the way of birth going as naturally as it's designed to be. So the more we can indoctrinate a woman into all right, this is how birth is naturally designed to be, and this is how you can live your life in these next 3 months in order for that to show up. And that's why we want to have a team of people around, not just from one person, but from a whole support team, to be able to allow all of those areas to be either addressed or just have an eye on it. I mean, sometimes you're in your own fishbowl and you only see your own stuff, but another person on your team might be identifying this is starting to show up. Let's do some work right now and prevent things from it being a problem on down the line.
That's right. And, one other thing I wanted to mention when a woman is looking to assemble her own birth team is, let's say, because I do see this in my area, let's say you're working with an OB who isn't really familiar with holistic type practitioners in the community, which sometimes happens, then sometimes the way that women end up in my office is they just ask their girlfriends who live locally, did you see a chiropractor during your pregnancy, or did you see an acupuncturist? And then they're able to get a direct referral to a practitioner who does specialize in that prenatal care, and their friend had a good experience with, and that can be a helpful way to get started. And then typically those practitioners would be able to help direct you to the other types of practitioners. And another resource, if you're looking for a chiropractor who specializes in prenatal care and is certified in the Webster technique, which I think is really important to be certified in during the maternity care. You can go to the ICPA website and look up doctors there. ICPA4kids.org has a list of chiropractors in your community that are Webster certified.
Yeah, and that is a really great resource. I know you talk a lot about that. I'm involved in the ICPA, and I know you are as well. And, with the podcast that I do, Healthy Births, Happy Babies, as your podcast also has, gone national and gone worldwide, listeners reach out to me all the time looking for, I wish I lived in San Diego, but I don't. Do you know of a chiropractor or another practitioner that I could be here in other parts of the country? And I don't, but what I've done personally is I go to the ICPA website. I look for a prenatal Webster certified chiropractor around in that area, and I reach out to them personally, place a call to the office and say, hey, this is what they're looking for. And they might not be looking for a chiropractor, but if they're looking for a naturally oriented OB, I call the chiropractor's office that's maternally oriented because they usually know those OBs in town. And it's network that we're looking to bring together. And obviously, as a chiropractor, my resources are with the ICPA, and I've known that to be extremely helpful for me. So listeners to this right now, if that's a great website to find because it has a great search engine to be able to find those type of practitioners.
Yeah, and beyond finding a Webster certified doctor, it's a great resource for all types of educational information. They have Pathways to Family Wellness magazine, which I absolutely love, and there's just so much great content and information about how to really create that healthy, holistic pregnancy, birth, and even raising healthy children in a more holistic, natural fashion. So there's a lot of great resources on their website, as well as the magazine that's produced by them, Pathways to Family Wellness. And I highly recommend that, people check out the website, check out the magazine, pathwaystofamilywellness.org. You can get an online subscription, or we actually have, paper copies mailed quarterly here to the office. We get 100 copies of Pathways and hand them out in our community because I just think it's so important for people to get their hands on this magazine and see what's out there. And it's very science-based. So it's easy to read as a mother or a pregnant woman, mother-to-be, but it's also really full of the science behind this type of work. So it's I think contrary to popular belief, chiropractic and these other types of work do have science behind them. This isn't just a foo-foo type modality, but there is the neurological component, which has been shown in its research.
Yeah, and Pathways, we have that here every quarter as well. It is a fantastic magazine because it blends exactly as you said, where it's in-depth articles. They're not just these kind of like 3-paragraph little topicals that you might see online popping up. It dives into topics, but it's very readable. It's not written for practitioners. It's written for parents, that are wanting to be educated. And so yes, I highly recommend Pathways as well.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to throw that resource out there. So you mentioned that you have your podcast, Healthy Births, Happy Babies. Tell us a little bit more about it. What's on there?
Yeah, well, Healthy Births, Happy Babies as a podcast really started as we only wanted to create an audio library of all the practitioners that we have here under the Cap Wellness roof to record that and have as a library for our patients. I was interested in podcasting well before the Cap Wellness Center came about, but when we started this, I thought it would be a great way to have it be available to people. And, I have to say, Dr. Laura, like your podcast that I found about a year ago was one of the first ones I started listening to. Not a chiropractic podcast and a mama-oriented podcast. So, you were definitely instrumental in us launching. But what we started with was interviewing topically all the different practitioners here, the doulas, the hypnobirthing instructors, the newborn care people, the acupuncturists, myself doing talks on chiropractic, Dr. Cap talking about what a hospital looks like, or a hospital birth looks like, and the midwife we have on staff here as well, and really assembling all of that information so a woman could be really empowered. But then, as you know, through the beauty of iTunes, it goes all over the world. And so we just had more and more listeners coming around and, more and more guests coming onto the podcast that, aren't here locally in San Diego, but we can pick their brains and have that information. Dr. Sarah Buckley and Dr. Lipton and just amazing minds that have so much, to share for pregnant women and for new parents. And it's just a tremendous resource. So the podcast has done really well. I really enjoy doing it. It's really fun. It's very different being on the other end of an interview where I'm not asking the questions, but I enjoy that as well.
Yeah, no, awesome. I'm so grateful to have, other podcasts that are out there that, you have a very similar, message and philosophy to Well-Adjusted Mama. And it's great to have more. And I feel like more and more of these types of podcasts are popping up, which is just fantastic because it's just an opportunity to just reach more people, more women, especially. Women are the drivers for healthcare for their family. So the more that women are empowered through education, the more they're going to empower themselves with their health, but also I know their partners and their children are directly impacted by that as well. And so it's really, amazing. And also think about it, like this has only been around fairly recently, right? Like when we were growing up, there wasn't an internet, there weren't any podcasts, you know, and it was harder to get access to this type of information. And that's really the beauty of the internet and something like iTunes with, you know, this free information. I mean, it's just so much really valuable information that's out there that is just so accessible. So I just think that's really exciting that this is out there and it's available, and you know anyone can start their own podcast too. You know, I've seen women that weren't even healthcare practitioners, but just from their own personal experiences, let's say with like a fertility challenge, they want to share their own experience with other women and bring on, you know, experts, and then just have real women tell their own stories. And I think there's a lot to be said of that, you know, for the healing and just for the opportunity for a woman to feel like she's making a difference even without having, you know, a medical degree.
Right. And it's all about community building, right? You know, an example that you just used is, you know, this woman going through her own experience, deciding to do a podcast to share it. Like it's allowing some woman that she might not even ever meet to be able to hear the story and to feel more connected, to feel not as alone, to feel that there is hope, that she's not going through the thing by herself, and maybe inspire her to reach out to someone to get some help. And it's that community feel we really want to bring back to not only birth, but to family. You know, as things get faster and faster, it's, you know, it's hard, we get overstimulated and we kind of shut things out, but it's really, I think we're all destined and it's ingrained in us to be a part of a community. And that's what we're trying to do here with Cap Wellness. It's what we're doing with the podcast. It's what you're doing out there on the East Coast. And just naturally women, when come into it resonates with them, and they want to be a part of things. And so I just really hope women find the community that really supports them in the ways they want to be supported, and that they can find it in their communities.
That's so beautiful. I completely agree that, you know, community is so important, and you know, it's important to reckon. I feel like, you know, in the past it was just kind of a given that you were born to a community, and that community support was just automatically there. And, you know, certainly in our modern culture, especially in the United States, we definitely become more disconnected, and that is not necessarily serving us as humans or as, you know, members of family and how we raise our children.
Right. And that's why, you know, things that you're doing in your community and what we're doing here have taken off, because, as you said, like in years past, like the community that a woman had to go through the childbearing process, and that's pregnancy and it's birth and it's the postpartum period, really was the community they had was sisters and moms and grandmas and aunts and friends that have been through that process. And that still is in place. It's just, it tends to be more splintered. You know, all of those women don't tend to be around the same place. People splinter all over the country, and that's why we're trying to bring that community feel. It might not be your mom, it might not be your sister, it might not be your aunt, but it is a community of women that are going through the same experience. And it's amazing to see women coming in here that are, you know, they're pregnant together and they're kind of the same time, and they start talking and they exchange numbers out in the front, and then they're doing prenatal classes, yoga classes together, and then they bring the babies to the mom and me yoga classes afterwards. And, you know, that friendships are made, you know, because they're like-minded mamas. They went through the same process here, so they're probably going to parent in the same way. And that feeling of support is so bonding that they want to continue on into the family life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So I think I'm so glad you mentioned that. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners?
No, I mean, it was really just that, you know, the community process or the community feel of things is so important to a woman feeling really safe and nurtured during the pregnancy. And it's that safety and the nurturing and the health that a woman feels during their pregnancy is going to allow for the family that's created, and that's the reason why you're going through the pregnancy, right, is create family, to be healthy and to really kind of start off life accelerated, and that they're not having to spend the postpartum period depleted and going through trauma and trying to, help with colicky babies and breastfeeding problems and postpartum depression. It's really the health that you carry into the pregnancy and that you maintain throughout the pregnancy that's going to allow the postpartum period to be that much healthier. But really the postpartum, we're thinking like you're a new mama. We want you to get to the loving on the kid and learning how to change diapers properly and dealing with all the other stresses that's naturally part of becoming a new parent without all of the other health problems that can overwhelm the first postpartum, those first 3-6 months of that can just take away from the beauty of being a parent. It's such a beautiful experience, and we don't want health issues getting in the way. And that's what we're trying to do here, is to be able to allow them to get right to parenting rather than having to deal with health problems.
That's right. Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's really about, mom and baby really feeling good and not being healthy, and how does that happen? That's through the natural birth process. And even once again, we didn't spend too much time, but, the postpartum care. Actually, can you just spend maybe a minute talking about, like the value of chiropractic after giving birth?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that I've seen, especially in this last year, where we were so prenatally oriented that it's so important to continue that care. I mean, the way I talk about it now with women is really there's a 9-month process your body is going through in the pregnancy, and it does not end with a birth. It's kind of all this stress and tension, and changes are building for 9 months. You have the birth, and then there's a 9-month aftercare process that you really want to attend to, because in all of the changes, especially women who've been through the third trimester, know there's a lot of changes your body's going through, getting used to being pregnant, by carrying the baby with the relaxin going through the system, all of the different hormonal changes. And then on the other side of the birth, your body's getting used to not being pregnant again. And specifically the relaxin, the hormone that softens all of the ligaments, it's still present in your body for 3 to 6, even 6 months after pregnancy. And as your body's coming back to its normal, if you can do alignment work and keep your body in balance throughout that process, you can actually come out of your pregnancy and your birth healthier than you were before you got pregnant. I've seen that time and time again, that women are continuing with like some really good postpartum care, and the kind of chronic problems that they're having in their body because of misalignment issues, because we were able to restructure things with that relaxin window we had postpartum, they're coming out healthier on the other end. And just, even if the focus isn't bad, if it's really handling the stress of the new pregnancy, and that's, round the clock feedings and sleep deprivation and all the hormonal changes and breastfeeding and sleeping in weird positions because kiddo finally fell asleep and your arm fell asleep, but you're not going to move because, the kid finally fell asleep, all those things we do as parents. I mean, it's another thing is like parenting is an ergonomic nightmare sometimes with the car seats and the positions you're in, breastfeeding and all those kind of things. Right. So it's so important to take care of yourself throughout it. And chiropractic is just such a gift throughout the postpartum period to help you flex with that and recover from the birth, but also be able to be fully available for your kiddo rather than having to fight through other stress problems postpartum.
Right. Yeah, that mama self-care is so important. And even beyond helping you feel better, like from being hunched over from nursing, I've even seen like milk supply improve with, women getting adjusted. So, everything's going to function better in your body after giving birth by, getting adjusted. So it is so important. And then bringing the newborn in to get checked as well is super important. Even if there was no birth trauma, just checking the alignment and, helping to prevent them from having issues, as they're developing and growing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, getting the newborns checked, I mean, that is something I love doing. And even if the birth goes perfectly, there still can be misalignments that are present in the baby coming through the birth canal that you just want to correct right away. And it is such a gift. And I respect every single time that a mom hands over their child to me to be able to check their spine and check them for subluxation. I'm a parent. I know how that is, like handing your little one over to a relative stranger. And it's just something that every parent, you can have your kid start off life in balance and their nervous system only knowing balance as their normal rather than waiting for their body to get so out of balance that a symptom actually shows up. I mean, that's the best gift you can give their health for that kid on the other side of things.
Yeah, it really is. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this interview, but I am just so grateful, Dr. J, for you coming on and just sharing your passion of working with the maternity pediatric population from a holistic perspective and telling us about your podcast, Healthy Births, Happy Babies. And they can find you at drjwarren.com or capwellnesscenter.com. Thank you.
Yes. Well, and thank you, Dr. Laura, for your podcast as well. As I said, it inspired me to do the work I'm doing with my podcast, and just keep up the great work.
Thank you.